Thank you, Ryan, and it certainly has been a great journey with Australian Vintage Limited and Renewtek on this project. And so, as Ryan explained, when we first got to know what Ryan was doing, was very much a business focus, a business starting point, with that the restructuring and encouragement within the organisation that Ryan was taking the organisation. You could see it was more about, let's care about order management, let's care about export shipping compliance, wine production, RFID and freight. So each organisation had its own area that it had to show its own respective functions and its performance. And the idea was that then if that was set up and structured that way, it made it much easier for AVL to go out and continue the acquisitions. And as the acquisitions occurred, they then had a very simple process to work out how do they integrate what's in that new acquisition into these parts of the business, and worked out what do we sell off and what do we bring in. And then once you've actually got the organisation structured that way, and when we got involved, Ryan came to us and said, what I want to make it easy for our business to operate and for people not to be us and them within the organisation. I want everyone to play in the sandpit as nicely as possible in the marketplace that we've got. So how do we bring our systems together such that when the board has new ideas, they can make those new ideas become a reality? And as things start to improve, how can I integrate documents or integrate bits of information? How do I get processes flowing through the organisation? And how can I get visibility of what's going on in my business, just like the same way I drive my car? I can look at the windscreen and actually see where I'm going, and I can make decisions and changes and get advice from my wife and the kids in terms of where we're going. So the idea is that's how we want to start to operate our business. So while we hear about SOA, we're actually relating this to business terms and what the business is looking for. So the approach actually then had to relate to some business things. So you don't go to the people that have got the purse strings and say, I want to buy some SOA. That doesn't make any sense. It's like, yeah, you need to make it in terms of real business benefits. So the business benefits that Ryan was talking about was, I want to work out how can I help my orders flow through the organisation. I want to do it in an automated manner. I want to do it without everybody trying to watch what's going on. I also want to have that visibility of where the orders are at. That's where I want to have it do it. And I want to do it with minimal disruption to my operation. I don't want the people in each department or business unit to actually feel threatened by what's going on. Well, how do we do that? So what we did is we took it on in a business-like manner. We tried to keep it such that we weren't going to talk about all this technology stuff and all these really detailed project plans, and it's going to take a long time. We tried to keep it as simple as possible for business people involved. So around automating how orders are managed, we actually just started whiteboarding the process steps. The process steps you've just heard Ryan take us through. We started to take them through that. And obviously, there's the stuff you do before you take on the order, then there's managing the order, and then there's the shipping of the order, and you're breaking it down. And going through such a process in a simple manner actually engages the business people. They can relate to it. You don't go into too much detail, you can relate to it. So you're taking them on that journey with the approach. So we've got this thing here. You can see this doesn't look like detailed SOA or sophisticated SOA stuff. And that's part of the benefit. You actually help people so they feel they're on that journey, and you're actually taking them down a SOA path without even using the word SOA. So what Ryan is doing, he's actually helping drive a sophisticated SOA architecture with resilience and agility without having to articulate it. So it's very much around a business project. The second initiative is, when we've got these orders happening, how do I monitor what's going on in real time? And once again, we made it really simple. Like, where are your orders? Are your orders on time? And we talked about things like cost, profit, quantity, and initially things like carbon wasn't on there. So this is the sort of stuff, you just bring it up and you make it easy for people to engage. Then we came up with the different filters up the top there. And you can see what we're doing here. This is the specification for the BAM screens, the business activity monitoring screens. So we're coming up with some sophisticated solutions without making people feel like there's all this overhead, all this complexity. We're trying to make it something that's very easy for them to pick up and absorb. And then finally, what we're talking about is, how do I get this stuff happening without it disrupting what's going on? I want to have it such that it can just slide in. I can bring it on board and deal with that. So that's the approach we took on. So we looked at the original one was, how do I automate my orders? How do I get the visibility? And how can I do it with the minimal risk? And we talked about each of those, the new ideas, the integration, the process, and the visibility, with real business terms with these people, so things that they could relate to. So the idea with that, what Ryan had now done, he'd gone down a set of discussions, a set of scenarios that people appreciated. Yes, that's what we want. That's what we want to achieve. And bang, the way we achieve that is we acquire Oracle Fusion middleware. The Fusion middleware bits and pieces can support that, can deliver that. So let's talk a little bit about what Fusion middleware means. What's this stuff actually include? So before we get into that, what we're now able to do is provide that framework such that with these systems in place, I have now been able to expose what I call business touch points. So for each of these applications like JDE, Trident, Easy Wine, Paperless and the freighting system, we've now looked at those and we've tried to understand what are the business touch points that make sense going forward. We don't go to the detailed data level, we just go to the business interaction level. And those business touch points then become a catalogue of business services that are then candidates to participate in a business process. And obviously the first process we're talking about is how do we automate that order. And that's where we design, we monitor. And everything that floats through that order, every bit of data that floats through that order as a document is then available to be used in the business activity monitoring capability. And that's the approach we've been able to take. So you not only have got the process happening against those touch points, you then have the ability at the same time to have the visibility of that. So this is where we spent a little bit of time and actually said, after we started to go through the journey, we started to revisit, what are the stages? How far do we want to go? And this is one of the things that I probably had picked up and learned from the AVL experience, is don't try and do too much at one time. Don't try and do too much at one time. Do things in a bite-sized chunk before you take that next step. Feel confident about what you're doing on that first step before you take that next step. The other thing is, you do not need to articulate everything to the business. They don't need to know about all the technicalities. All they need to know is about the business benefit that they're getting, the business opportunity that we're chasing. And by us taking on the risk around the technicalities, as long as we deliver, we'll actually get what we're looking for. So Ryan's approach about the SOA perspective is more about leading it from a business benefit perspective. Once you've been able to get the credibility about the business benefits you've been able to deliver, you can then go back and say to the business, we've been able to do it because we had this architecture, this thing called a service-oriented architecture. And then they'll ask you about it. And I've heard Ryan talk about at the board level, Brian McGuigan, who's not a technical person, actually articulate to the other board members that SOA, it's like this thing, it's like a car engine, right? Do I really need it? Well, I've had my old Holden for a lot of years. It's actually time for me to upgrade to one of the newer models, right? It'll help me do things that'll go faster and have more capabilities. So you've actually had someone, a non-technical person, did he really get it? Probably not, but he understood that we want to take a new approach to trying new things out here. And the key thing which I've also picked up from the AVL experience is that Ryan made a decision